I want to thank Ann Bajewski for those very revealing remarks on what's happening at the UN these days and how the Obama administration must not take any unilateral action in these last days of its term. I'm going to make a few remarks, then hand the floor over to Trent Franks, and then I'm going to open the door, and I'd love for the opportunity for some other members who are here to weigh in as well. I'm going to thank Melody Devine for organizing this from my staff. As Ann has said, it's long-held U.S. policy that the future of U.S. and Palestine be conducted by direct and bilateral negotiations for all the reasons that she mentioned. Anything apart from that won't have any promise of future success. So it has to be done that way. The United Nations, unfortunately, is not the forum or the arbiter for there to be a just relationship between between Israel and Palestinian people. We have seen this, as Ann started to describe. I'll give you a little bit more background on the pathetic record that the UN has when it comes to condemning human rights, what it calls human rights abuses. In the 68th session 2 years ago, 21 of 25 resolutions condemning any human rights violations in the entire world were against Israel. 21 out of 25. In this last session, the 69th, 20 of 23 total resolutions condemning human rights abuses were against Israel. And remember, there are 193 countries out there, other territories as well, and then there are people like Cuba, Iran, that never even get a mention many times. We've seen the recent very poorly advised action by UNESCO to not carry out its mandate, but to deny Jewish historical, archaeological, spiritual, and cultural ties to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount, and by inference, Christian ties as well. That is, in the word UNESCO, there is the word educational. You'd think that they would be out to promulgate truth and reason, but an action like that violates its very mission. So we can't have and should not have end runs around bilateral negotiations by going to the UN on the part of the Palestinian Authority. It is actually counterproductive and harmful. It gives false hope to the Palestinian people that should not be there, and it enables the leadership to say, well, we did something there. We don't have to deal across the table with any leadership in Israel. And that doesn't have any promise or future of success. So if Barack Obama and his administration do not veto a condemnatory Israel-related resolution at the UN in these waning days of its administration, it would be, in effect, changing long-held U.S. policy. U.S. policy, as Ann has stated, is for the U.S. to urge Israel and the Palestinian people to meet across the negotiating table and to hammer this out in a bilateral fashion. So let me just conclude by saying that President Obama, in his last days of office, must not make a unilateral and harmful change in U.S.-Israel policy. He must direct his UN ambassador to veto any resolution that condemns Israel and tilts the playing field away from Israel.